This morning, we are sitting with Malusi Shezi, the CEO of the construction CETA. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm good, and you?
I'm good, thank you.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Getting into the CETA itself now, tell us a bit about the construction CETA.
Construction CETA is one of the 21 CETAs we have in the country, as they are organized per key economic sectors in this country. The CETA's role in the main is to look after the skills, education and training of the sectors we are responsible for, to check and to make sure that the sectors that we serve, we are supposed to be an authority for, got the skills today, tomorrow. And in that, we're focusing specifically on South African workforce, who from the bottom, which will be elementary skills to advanced level skills.
You've touched on it a little bit. So who falls under the coverage of the construction CETA? If someone is listening and they are wondering which CETA they would belong to or they would go to, to advance their skills depending on their interest in terms of their career advancement, who falls under the construction CETA, coverage?
Generally, anything that has to do with the work where you construct or build something, it's within the scope of the CETA. And then all the careers that falls under the built environment construction, including your own property development, is part of the construction environment.
For those who then are looking for an opportunity to be entrepreneurs, start their own businesses once they exit, the programs, are there initiatives that empower them on business skills beyond the technical skills?
For the beneficiaries that we fund in the main, I'll start with the ones on the Bursary program. Yes, there is that, because it's part of the package for the support that we need to give them, which also you'll find that institutions of higher learning themselves, they're already awake to the issue of promoting and instilling entrepreneurship culture.
Molweni, Sanibonani, Dumelang, and welcome to this episode of Property Market Moves. Now, in this platform, we're talking all things property, and the aim is to give you information, to educate and to inspire you along your property journey. Now, if you are a student that is studying towards a property qualification, or you are in business in property, or you simply have an interest in property, this is the platform for you. And this morning, we are sitting with Malusi Shezi, the CEO of the construction CETA. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm good, and you?
I'm good, thank you.
Fantastic.
Yeah, no, it's good to have you. We know the work of the CETAs, or we have an idea. Sometimes we don't fully know what the benefits, of being with the CETAs, does for us. And I think today we just want to deep dive into what the CETA, construction CETA specifically, offers. But before we get in there, who is Malusi Shezi?
Thank you. Malusi Shezi, I'll start by my background. I was born in Umlazi, Durban.
Okay.
To an interesting family, which is polygamic. And I happen to be the last born of my father and the 21st kid.
21.
Out of all children.
Jeez, I don't know how he did that in today's economy.
Yeah, that was back then when they could do things. And I did, in my high school, I started with physics and I changed my mind. And then I started commerce, and then I went to University of KwaZulu-Natal, to do my Bachelor of Accountancy. Then I did honors, then went to do articles with one of the big four firms, and I qualified as a CA in 2007. And after that, I joined corporate. I was with Liberty Life for a short stint. Then I went to join the Office of the Auditor General. I was headhunted to look after something there. Then I spent some time in my career overseas in New York as part of the United Nations Board of Auditors representing South Africa.
Okay.
And then after that, I left the Auditor General in 2013, August, to then I joined back the consulting world. I started my own in 2017 up to 2020. And then after that, I then joined the CETA as an advisor when it was under administration, which was supposed to be only 3 months. Then I developed an interest. When the CEO position was advertised. Then I started as a CEO at CETA from 1 September 2021.
Okay. Sure. Wow. That's quite an illustrious career. And getting into the CETA itself now, tell us a bit about the construction CETA.
Construction CETA is one of the 21 CETAs we have in the country, as they are organized per key economic sectors in this country. The CETA's role in the main is to look after the skills, education and training of the sectors we are responsible for, to check and to make sure that the sectors that we serve, or we are supposed to be an authority for, got the skills today, tomorrow. And in that, we're focusing specifically on South African workforce, who from the bottom, which will be elementary skills to advanced level skills. For us as a construction CETA, when we talk about elementary skills, we're talking about those skills that are basic, like somebody wanting to do flooring. They need an elementary skills. And then when we talk about an advanced skill, we're talking about like your engineering sciences, etc., etc. Those will be at advanced level. And in between, intermediate, you got your artisans, which are very critical for the development of the sector and the economy as such, since infrastructure is driven from a construction perspective.
Okay. So in that, and you've touched on it a little bit, so who falls under the coverage of the construction CETA? If someone is listening and they are wondering which CETA they would belong to or they would go to, to advance their skills depending on their interest in terms of their career advancement, who falls under the construction CETA, coverage?
Generally, anything that has to do with the work where you construct or build something, it's within the scope of the CETA. And then all the careers that falls under the built environment construction, including your own property development, is part of the construction environment. And then when we talk about specific skills or subsectors at CETA, we have organized ourselves into 5 subsectors, which one is materials manufacturing, those who manufactures all these things that we use to build and construct, like including your cement manufacturers, etc., the ceramic manufacturers that does the tiles, etc. Then we got electrical construction. those after the buildings are up, they make sure that the electrical installations and functioning is going to work properly according to the standards. We got building and civils, construction, we got roads, construction. Those are the subsectors in the main. When we talk about the skills that are serving the construction sector, you'll have your bricklayers, your plumbers, your electricians, you'll have all your painters, your tilers, those who do roofing, shuttering, ceilings, etc. It's a long list which goes up to 52 skills that you are responsible for, plus those advanced skills that I referred to, your architects and environment assessors belongs to our sector, and then property developers, construction and project managers, they belong to this sector in the main. So anybody with an interest of being involved in such careers needs to be in touch with the CETA.
Okay. All right. And you've touched a bit about, skills of, today and tomorrow. And I would imagine that with the changing, economy and the changing world, naturally, there will be skills that, are catered for and produced by the institutions of higher learning, and skills that are required by the world of work. And where you then identify, some skills, gaps that are not fully catered for by the institutions of higher learning, but required by the world of work. Can you speak to what those skills, gaps that you've identified and that the CETA would look to address?
Currently, I will focus on the apprenticeships, which are well known as artisans. You will recall that in the NDP, there is an ambitious goal that South Africa by 2030 should be producing 30,000 artisans per annum. That is across the economy. We are one of the very few CETAs. I think there's 5 or 6 of us amongst the 21 that are able to produce artisans. They are required. You will recall also when we were hosting the World Cup and building the stadiums in South Africa, the challenge that South Africa had that you had to import artisans because we didn't have enough in the country. It may look like it's doom and gloom currently because of high rate of unemployment, but the industry and the economy of this country still requires artisans. And that's what currently maybe the most popular institutions of higher learning, like your universities and universities of technology, they don't care for that. The TVET, the public TVET sector has started being the ones that advance the agenda of developing artisans. The CETAs have been charged with that responsibility with the programs that we run, because we do also accredit companies to train on behalf of the CETAs, and then those companies must be accredited by the CETAs before QCTO took over the role on the function of accrediting. It was done directly by the CETAs, and we had a suite of qualifications from FETC, which is Further Education and Training Certificate, up to national certificates level, which on the NQF level, you will be able to then link those. And the CETA still continue as a CETA as well. We still continue to accredit about 3 or 4 of the qualifications that we were traditionally accrediting entities for, including plumbing, and then the majority of them, since the space has moved to occupational qualifications that are under the function of the QCTO, we still support that function. So in terms of producing those skills that are needed, it is our duty as a CETA to make sure that we plan, we are charged by the enabling legislation, which is the Skills Development Act, that we should be regularly updating our sector skills plan, which indicates what are the skills and the competencies needed by the sector, and that it's also enabled by the government, the Department of Higher Education and Training with the Department of Labor and Department of Home Affairs. Every 2 years, they gazette and issue the list of critical and scarce skills in this country. And when you look at most of them, you will find all these apprenticeships, the bricklayers, the plumbers, etc. They are always featured there. And then you will have others at an advanced level, like from those that should be at an honors to master's level, which in the main will be your engineers, your architect, etc., which are still considered to be scarce in this country. So those are the responsibilities that we are charged with, in as much as we focus on producing artisans, but also we must look at the whole value chain from the bottom to the top and top to the bottom to make sure that there is no area or level that start to suffer because we were overemphasizing one at the expense of the other.
And I imagine that whilst then at the top you will have your professions, and when you go down, we tend to downplay or undermine the importance of those skills. And in terms of the uptake, for people who are keen to be trained as artisans, are we getting as much as we would like to see?
I will think so, in as much there is still more work to be done in terms of the quality of training that these beneficiaries will be subjected to, because currently, generally, the industry is not 100% happy with the output that is getting from the programs, which is a function of the quality of training providers. There are those that take the work and the function of training people seriously. And in any industry, you'll find those that also cut corners and that start to show when you release the product, which will be somebody who must be certified as an artisan, etc., to the industry. Currently, there are always these comments that majority at this point in time, they still need to be worked on. It may also be an issue of how do we roll out the artisans program. Other countries like Germany, for you to become an artisan first, you must be employed, meaning you must have an employer, in that you will spend maybe 3 days a week at your workplace and then 2 days at an academic institution, which in South Africa, in as much as we have the rules that they must spend 30% of their time doing theory and then 70% practical. But how it's structured, that 30% may happen purely from month 1 to month 3 in class, then from month 4 to month, let's say 25, that's when a person is going to go out, of which that integration is not yet advanced, which may be a contributor to what the industry sees as not at the level at which it should be. So our responsibility is meant to make sure that in the future, as we continue, because the need is still there, we need to relook, of which we have reviewed even our quality assurance processes as a CETA, and we have advanced to make sure that also the projects oversight and monitoring, whereby we need to make sure that the training providers, because CETAs cannot be able to do the training themselves. We operate on an outsource model. We outsource the function, and then we fund those who have to do. We make sure that they are properly accredited. And also even the quality of learning materials that they use must be relevant. Also the facilitators themselves must be properly qualified, which because of the shortage of skills, sometimes you find that's where it starts to have challenges. And then on the part that is produced by universities and universities of technologies, we are not that much worried, because for them to roll some of the built environment related qualifications, they need to be accredited by a council, a relevant council. Like if it's a school of civil engineering, etc., it must be accredited by Engineering Council of South Africa. So the risk is minimal, that because for that accreditation to happen, they must have suitably qualified lecturers who got appropriate experience, meaning themselves must have been exposed to the industry. They must be practicing professionals themselves, which then minimize the risk. What we do, ours, is to make sure that we fund through bursaries, and then when they finish at those universities and universities of technology, we provide support in the form of candidacy funding, where we fund them for a period of 3 years until they qualify to get their PR numbers.
Okay, and that is when then they get the practical exposure.
Yes.
Okay, and what impact then does that have on the absorption rate, of the artisans who have come out when the world, of work is suspicious about their readiness for work? Does that have an impact on how much absorption you actually get on the trained artisans?
On the artisan, the absorption is way better, in as much there are those concerns, because the industry also is conscious that they need to play a role, because they also need the skill. As a result, if it is found that there are gaps, they do their best to close those gaps. But we cannot have that longer, because it's not sustainable that you'll have somebody who goes through a program and when they come out, they are not 100% ready. Although it is not a unique issue just for the construction sector. It's a countrywide issue, but for us as a CETA responsible for this sector, we have put means and checks and balances to make sure that going forward we do not have such issues happening. And then we do produce, and then also the absorption on the side of artisans, as I mentioned, seems to be way better. We did a tracer study, which was a mini study in 2022. It gave us the result that shows that post the training, most beneficiaries on the artisans program, they get absorbed within 24 to 36 months into the labor market, as opposed to the other, which will be in the main, the learnerships, which was showing that they get absorbed between year 5 and year 8 after they've exited, which is understandable because an artisans program is an intense program that takes 36 months for an artisan to emerge and be certificated, and they are also trade tested independently. They may have gaps, but to say they are properly certificated, they are, because that trade testing is not done by the training provider, is not done by the CETA itself, is done by an independent body. And that will subject a person to, before they get their numbers, to say they are now certificated as an artisan, in as much as we have not promoted artisanship to be a career of choice, but it's got credibility and it's got better chances and opportunity to articulate to the higher advanced level skills as well, starting with that. So the absorption is good for the artisans.
And for those who then are looking for an opportunity to be entrepreneurs, start their own businesses once they exit, the programs, are there initiatives that empower them on business skills beyond the technical skills?
For the beneficiaries that we fund in the main, I'll start with the ones on the Bursary program. Yes, there is that, because it's part of the package for the support that we need to give them, which also you'll find that institutions of higher learning themselves, they're already awake to the issue of promoting and instilling entrepreneurship culture within the learners, of which we always encourage, and we even put it in the bursary agreement that they need to attend such support programs. I believe that also our partnership with yourself as SAIBIP got that element that we need to promote the property development, the careers in this space, which includes also those who wants to run their own, which is going to lead to the issue, how do we then design a support program that instills that entrepreneurship flair in the learners that are part of this program. And then when it comes to the The learnerships, apprenticeships, indeed, it is, because there are CETAs that also specializes how to start a new business, etc.
Yeah.
And it has become our part of our decision as we are now reviewing our qualification,
Yes.
that our learning material should include entrepreneurship, ICT skills, and innovation to be integral to the construction qualifications and skills. Yeah.
Sure, because in the changing, nature of the environment that we play, I mean, now there's 3D printing, in construction. I don't know to what extent South Africa has embraced, these technological advancements in the built environment. And the CETA may not necessarily be there, but what is your view on these technological nuances?
I would say we have not made much strides in that area. Maybe it's driven by certain factors, as you'll know as a practitioner in the industry, that infrastructure development in this country is in the main funded by governments.
Yeah.
And we have a challenge with the funding model of the government without venturing into the pros and cons of the PFMA.
Yeah.
But there is that rule that seems to come from the PFMA that you should appoint the lowest price bidder, which inhibits innovation in its own. The private sector funded projects seems to have made some strides.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, when you look at the developments that are funded by private sector versus the ones by government, you can see a huge difference. The ones by private sector, as we speak, most of them, they got less bricks and mortar. Some of them are either steel, glass. They are more off-green buildings. And then when you look at the ones funded by government, it's still very intact bricks and mortar. Very intact is 99% of that.
Yeah.
Which we can read when we analyze that it's likely to be driven by this issue that you must always reduce costs. You must appoint the one that of which to do green building may cost you, but it's got savings at a later stage. And then this one that is full of bricks may look like less costly when you are constructing it or developing it, but at a later stage it's more costly.
Yeah.
So it's an inverse, and then in as much we're also way behind with even the traditional methods of construction, like your steel construction, concrete construction, we're way behind, of which other countries that have tried to advance construction environment, like your China, irrespective of the weather patterns in that country, the construction projects still continue because they adopted that they will do more of a concrete construction and steel construction, and we are way behind in that. Even for us, we've started to talk about the advanced artisans skills that we need, like the issues of advanced welding, because for you to be able to do proper steel construction, you need proper welders, not just somebody who's welding a small pipe. Like when you build like the ports and harbors, you need that advanced skill, and that's going to be our focus going forward. And also the issues of like wood construction. How do we use the forestry that we have in this country to benefit in terms of our infrastructure development? There is a lot that which needs high-end carpenters, not just a normal person that's joining the wood together, but a structure that can be able to last for the next 60 to 80 years being built with that. And then in terms of the build information model, modeling, we are at a very basic stage of which other regulators like the CITB have made sure that that aspect should form part of the curriculum going forward. There is enough research that has been done, but its adoption now in real life is the one that we are yet to see it advancing. So we are way behind South Africa, and there is a lot that needs to be done, and we cannot be able to do away with technology because the world we operate in operates in that manner. And also on our side, we believe that the industry needs to be efficient. This thing, like for instance, we make a joke that you can't be solving the problems of 2024 using 1983 solutions.
Yeah.
If in 1983, when there was a pipe burst in the building, you needed to run around up and down to check where the leak is. Today, there are technologies and means to be able to detect a leak without running up and down. You send something through the pipe, it's going to be able to come back and reflect that the leak is here. Then you know where to go and fix that. Technology is so important at this stage that we need to advance.
Yeah. All right. And from a construction CETA perspective, I mean, I imagine that with anything that we're doing, when we have, partnerships with across the sector, we can always do more. What support does the construction CETA, require from business? How best would business be, supporting the goals of the CETA, and perhaps even the people who are sitting at home with no work opportunities when there are, opportunities that are funded for them to get trained?
Yeah. One, we have a responsibility as CETA to make sure that we balance issues of demand and supply for the skills that are required by the industry.
Yeah.
That itself also, it has to address the issue whereby there's always this mismatch that is pronounced that what's coming out of the training programs, including universities, is not aligned with what the industry needs. That itself, the training institutions, including the CETA, cannot be able to bridge that gap by its own. You need to partner with the industry players, which also the industry need to be cognizant that for that to happen, you can't sit back and point a finger and criticize. You need also to suggest solutions. What we do, because annually we have to update our sector skills plan, that is driven in the main by what the industry says through the submissions they make with work skills plans, plus the annual training reports that they submit to be able to claim back their refund, which is for the levies that they would have contributed, what we call mandatory grants, which is the 20% of the 1% that they will have contributed to the CETA system. And that partnership on its own is very important, that the industry must continue to submit credible and reliable work skills plans and annual training reports. Because as CETA, we analyze that, and then where they even indicate in those reports that as employers, this is what we feel are hard to fill vacancies, you need this and that. Because for us, that's how then we plan to say, okay, it means in the next 5 years, our focus should be here and not there. Because this is what the industry is seeing. And there is even a question where they need to indicate for the future skills, what do they see or envisage as future skills for this sector? That helps us to then plan to bridge the gap. Two, the partnerships that we have with the industry, either private or other industry bodies, which would be your voluntary associations, the councils and other regulators, are very important for us to make sure that we are not just producing a person that we think, but the person who's overall grounded and complete in terms of what is needed so that they can be able to thrive when they are released to the job markets. We also sign partnerships with the voluntary associations to address a particular challenge which up to now we have, which called a work placement for the learners, either learner for the ones that are on the apprenticeships programs, but in the main, your TVET learners and the ones at universities that need practical exposure. We do not have workplace. Employers own the workplace, and some of them, they belong to various associations. So those partnerships, they help to unlock that opportunity. What we can do as a CETA, even what we find that for workplace, we may find only for 1,000 learners a year, and find that in the system you got about 4,000 learners, so you're gonna have a shortfall, and we expect the industry to come to party to be the ones that are able to respond positively and support. Yes, they need to make profits, and when you have somebody who's clueless for the first month, they are wasting your time. But you need to think sustainably to say, today they are wasting my time, but if I invest in this person, one day they are going to give you more returns than the cost that you incurred when they were wasting your time on site, etc. That's the attitude that for us, we would like to appeal to the employers and the industry. They need to support. Even the issues of responding to students that are doing research, it's very important for the industry to participate. Most employers say, hey, you are wasting our time. They don't want to respond. And it means those students, even if they conclude their research may not be 100% what you are experiencing on the ground, because you deprive them of an opportunity of your knowledge and experience and your input. So those are the dynamics which says the industry players need to be proud of the industry and also be thinking about its sustainability in the future. Say, what do you need now? Not sustainability in terms of being profitable alone, but also in terms of the skills and competencies that you need. Because also, if you got people that are aging in your industry, but you do not give the opportunity for the newcomers who are still young, who still got maybe 40 years working life available, and you do not invest in them, one day you're going to find yourselves having a crisis, and which will then prompt that you must import the competencies that you need to be able to run your business, or else you'll keep on saying, I'm shifting my business to another geography, which sometimes is also not sustainable.
Sure. All right. So that's the call for the industry. We have to play our part in supporting the initiatives that government is providing, and not always point fingers and expect, government to do things for us and we're not coming to the party. So as we wrap up, we have a question that the previous guest, wrote for you. When they wrote this question, they didn't know who the next guest is going to be. Okay. And when you leave, you are also going to write a question for the next, guest to the podcast. And it is, as an investor, would you look at residential or commercial, and why? So would you look at, if you were an investor, would you look at residential investment or commercial, and why would you choose either of the two?
Okay. Do I have to choose only one, or I can choose both?
You're an investor that wants both residential and commercial. Okay.
I would say,
yeah.
If I was a startup property developer or investor, I will start with residential under the current economic climate, in that with COVID and then the rise of working from home, the commercial space started to be challenged. So if I want to see the returns in the next 5 to 10 years, I'll start with residential. Okay. Because irrespective whether you work from home, that home or apartment, it's called a residence. So I will invest in that, and also in terms of the opportunities that are available. There are new spaces and new towns and new suburbs coming out in this country. Also looking at the technologies, there's what the president called the smart cities. Okay. And you need people to live in those environments, as opposed to the previous regime spatial planning that made people to stay 60 kilometers away from where they work. And then as we start to plan our property development differently, that presents an opportunity for investors to start thinking creatively and innovatively. How then do we use limited land available in these spaces where people are going to live in a way that will make profit for you as an investor, also make the people who live in those spaces to be proud, and also what I would call it to be stress-free. In that if you know that you live in these precincts, but you can also be able to work in the same precincts. And then if I was then, let's say, a veteran investor, I'll start looking into commercial properties. There's still an opportunity, like in the environment of logistics and warehousing. There is a big opportunity there. I think also from an infrastructure development that is happening in some provinces, they are building new ports and new harbors, etc. That's an opportunity for commercial properties, especially if you are building new ports. You need all these things for stevedoring, warehousing, etc. So that will be where I will invest if I was not a startup investor.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time. That was really informative, educational, and we are hoping that you are taking in all the information and the education that is being provided on this platform. And yes, do share with your community, because it is important that you don't learn alone. As you get this information and education and inspiration, share with your community so that together we can boost the growth of our economy and certainly the growth of the construction CETA. Follow us, like and share this podcast with everyone so that we really spread the word. We are not just communicating to entertain. We are educating, informing, and inspiring you along your property journey. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.